Hello everyone, this is Remlays from 40k Theories, and welcome to this new episode of 40k Lore for Newcomers. For this episode, nominated on Patreon by Chapter Master Kondrakis, we will be taking a brief look at the Grav vehicles of the Primaris Space Marines. This video will be a brief overview for certain events that may be explored in greater depth within additional videos in the future. So without further ado, let's begin.
Offer the incantation of activation. Speak forth the litany of retribution, and deliver unto the enemy the wrath of the Omnissiah.
Following the events of the Horus Heresy, Rabute Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines Legion, would task Belisarius Culln of the Adeptus Mechanicus to begin undertaking the development of an entirely new breed of genetically enhanced warrior, which would come to be known as Primaris Marines. This newest breed of Astartes, in addition to being equipped with newly developed forms of weaponry and armor, would also have several new vehicles produced by the Forgers of Mars, in order to provide heavy weapon support and also to act as transports for the Primaris, as many pre-existing Space Marine vehicles, such as the Rhino APC, were incapable of conveying this much larger breed of warrior across the battlefield. So far, 3 distinct patterns of gravitic tanks have been produced for Primaris use: the Impulsor, Repulsor and Astraeus, although variants of these vehicles are also known to exist. While these vehicles all share a superficially similar appearance to that of many pre-existing Astartes vehicles, due to their use of pre-existing STC templates, these Primaris-grade vehicles sport a number of highly advanced alterations and additions. For many of these vehicles, it remains unclear if such alterations were due to the rediscovery of long-forgotten technologies, Cull's own ingenuity and innovation, or possibly even some combination of the two. The common defining feature found within these particular vehicles is their shared implementation of Grav technology. This Grav technology allows the tanks of the Primaris to hover over the ground in a similar manner to a land speeder or jet bike by producing an anti-gravitational field. While the tanks of the Primaris lack the speed and maneuverability of these smaller vehicles, they are still capable of circumnavigating many forms of terrain, such as lava flows or rivers of acid, which would prove troublesome or even completely impassable for more traditional vehicles, making the Grav vehicles of the Primaris both agile and deadly.
Camouflage is the color of fear. I have no need to hide from my foes. I have no fear of death. My colors I wear openly. They proclaim louder than any words. I am proud to live. I am proud to die.
The Impulsor Grav-Tank is a vehicle that serves as the Primaris equivalent to a more traditional Rhino armoured personnel carrier, acting as a dedicated troop transport for this particular breed of Astartes. Impulsors sport relatively thin armour when compared to other Primaris vehicles, making them unsuited for prolonged firefights. However, while the Impulsor lacks in durability, it more than makes up for in speed. Thanks to its powerful thrusters, combined with a lighter chassis in comparison to other gravitic tanks, the Impulsor is capable of transporting troops across the battlefield with remarkable speed. Despite its relative lack of armour, Impulsors can be upgraded to incorporate a shield generator that envelops the vehicle within a refractive field. This field will then disperse any incoming enemy fire over the entire field, reducing their power and killing potential. Typically, the Impulsor will be used to effectively deliver a killing blow to the enemy or perform devastating flanking maneuvers in order to rapidly deploy their passengers deep within enemy lines. Because of their speed and maneuverability, Impulsors are highly prized by Vanguard Marines, Primaris that are trained in the arts of reconnaissance, covert operations, and guerrilla warfare. To aid in this, many Impulsors will be equipped with powerful Vox and Auspex arrays to monitor enemy movement and communications. Because of the various roles performed by Vanguard Marines, this will often mean that the Impulsor will act as their sole form of armoured support for extended periods of time. Thankfully, these tanks can be equipped with a surprisingly diverse array of weaponry, such as heavy stubbers, storm bolters, or the devastating Bellicatus missile array, allowing them to unleash the Emperor's wrath against enemy infantry, light tanks, and even aircraft, allowing the Primaris Marines carried within to move in for the kill.
Against the alien and the traitor, there is no fair way to fight.
Unlike the Impulsor, the Repulsor strikes a fine balance between sheer destructive power and agility. These vehicles are covered in a series of thick interlocking plates of adamantium and ceramite, making their defences all but impervious to most forms of weaponry. Because of the heavier armour of the Repulsor, the gravitic field needed to keep these vehicles suspended above the ground is more powerful than that of the Impulsor. However, unlike the Impulsor, which can skim lightly across the battlefield, the gravitic fields generated by the Repulsor are so intense that anything unfortunate enough to be caught beneath them will be utterly crushed and ground into a pulp by the applied forces. In addition, the ventral plates of the Repulsor produce a secondary field, which is used to disorient any enemy troops that attempt to assault the vehicle. These fields are so potent that they are even capable of pummeling the enemy into submission, and can be aimed and redirected by the vehicle's pilot to specific locations across its surface, affording them additional protection. Such fields will often be activated by the tank's pilot prior to the disembarkation of its passengers in order to stun and knock back enemy troops, allowing the Astartes to swiftly gun them down. The Repulsor also serves as a troop transport for Primaris Marines. Although, unlike the Impulsor however, the Repulsor is more heavily armed, often being equipped with weapons such as the Onslaught Gatling Cannon, Las Talon, and twin heavy bolters. While it is slower than the much lighter Impulsor, the Repulsor is still capable of reaching speeds in excess of 35 miles per hour, which when combined with its heavy armour, gravitic field, and devastating arsenal, allows the Repulsor to effortlessly bulldoze its way through many obstacles that lie in its path. While the baseline Repulsor is a common sight within the vehicle pools of the Primaris, at least one variant of this tank has been documented, known as the Repulsor Executioner. The Executioner, inspired by the older and more traditional Razorback tanks, sacrifice a portion of their troop transporting capability for additional firepower. In addition to the standard loadout of baseline Repulsors, the Executioner variant will be armed with a heavy laser destroyer or a macroplasma incinerator, granting the Executioner exceptionally potent firepower. Some chapters will use these variants as armoured escorts for lighter troop transports, whereas others will use them in a manner more akin to a mobile weapons platform. Regardless of the manner in which they are used, few can deny the destructive capability and sheer resilience of these tanks.
Shields are holding. Power at 44%. Let them spend their impotent wrath.
The Astraeus Super Heavy tank is the largest and most advanced of the Imperium's gravitic tanks, said to exemplify the pinnacle of Imperial engineering. These vehicles are so massive that they even dwarf the mighty and colossal Baneblade tanks of the Imperial Guard. Unlike the Impulsor and Repulsor, which many claim to be primarily the result of Cull's own expertise and innovation, much of the technology found within the Astraeus was said to have come from a standard template construct recovered by the Minotaurs chapter during a series of events known as the Perrin Cross Incident. The schematics uncovered from this STC were then rumoured to have been blended with the innovative technology developed by Culln himself, resulting in the creation of the Astraeus. Somewhat uniquely, the Astraeus itself is not produced upon Mars, but is instead manufactured upon more distant and isolated forge worlds such as Mazoa. This is said to be due in part to the events of Perrin Cross, with the records of the event being sealed by order of the Inquisition. Unlike the Impulsor or Repulsor, the Astraeus does not serve as a troop transport in any capacity, and is instead solely focused upon the task of annihilating the enemies of man. To aid in this task, the Astraeus is armed with a formidable array of weaponry, including a pair of macro-accelerator cannons, las rippers or plasma eradicators, as well as twin-linked heavy bolters, or las cannons, allowing it to single-handedly destroy scores of infantry, vehicles, and even fortifications. For protection, the Astraeus not only sports incredibly thick and durable armor plating, but also a number of overlapping void shields, allowing it to withstand weapons that would prove the death of lesser vehicles. Whenever a chapter of the Adeptus Astartes deploys one of these leviathans in battle, victory is all but assured for the Emperor's forces. And that concludes this edition of 40k Lore for Newcomers. If you like this video, consider supporting us on Patreon for more content. To those who are new to 40k, we hope you learned something. So leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.